Hello everyone, welcome to the Geoecologist. I am Dr. Krishnanand, and in this session on climatology, we are going to learn about tropical cyclone. But before we go ahead, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and do share the videos with others as well. So now let's understand about tropical cyclones. So they have a thermal origin, as we know. Now remember, the thermal origin is the most important factor here. It means it is heat driven, or for that matter temperature driven, that is important, and they develop over tropical seas. So this is about that tropical region that we are talking about during when late summers, that is August to mid-November, when there is accumulation of lots of heat in this particular tropical zone. So at these locations, the strong local convectional currents, remember the convection current, hot air rises up, cool air comes down, and there is a convection cycle going on. So this acquire a whirling motion. Now look at this particular image, you see this whirling motion happening, right? So this is what we are talking about, a whirl creation. So this is important, and whirling motion because of what? The Coriolis force. So remember, one is the convection accompanied by the Coriolis force. That is why you have these whirling actions, that is important here. So after developing, these cyclones advance till they find a weak spot in the trade wind belt. Now remember, this is important here, that this is part of largely the trade wind belt. So this is largely flowing or focusing of that particular region of tropics where trade wind blows, right? So that is important. Now, there are certain things that we need to associate and remember with this, something called squall. So what is a squall? A sudden violent gust of wind or localized storm. This is known as a squall, and it brings rain, snow, sleet, all these things that are important. Then torrent, what is it? A strong, fast moving stream of water or other liquid. This is called torrent. So squall is related to air and torrent is related to water. This is important. Why we are learning this squall and torrent here? Because in cyclonic condition, these two are very much important. So the cyclonic wind movements are anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere. Remember the Coriolis effect? So it is anti-clockwise. This is the direction in the northern hemisphere. But it is exactly the opposite in the southern hemisphere. This is clockwise in the southern hemisphere, and this is because of the Coriolis force that we have learned already. The cyclones are often characterized by existence of anticyclone between the two cyclones. So this is important. If there are two cyclones in between, what happens? Remember, a cyclone has this low pressure in the center and gradually this is high pressure in the upper part. And what happens when there is high pressure here? Remember, the winds are going down, subsiding again, right? So this keeps happening. When there is a subsidence, what happens? The wind is going away. The wind is going away from the center. That is what is called anticyclone. So one where the wind is actually going towards the center, centripetal action is happening. Exactly, it is accompanied by an anticyclone on the other hand, right? So between two cyclones, there will be an anticyclone. Right? So that is how a cycle continues. That is important to understand. So when we learn about the origin, now it's important to understand this particular image. So what do you see? 5 steps. First is warm, moist air moves over the ocean. Then what happens? There is evaporation. So water vapor rises up. Then what happens? As the water vapor rises up, it starts to cool and condensate and form cloud at a particular level. Then what happens? At this particular stage, remember what happens? There is a release of latent heat, and that is where we learned about latent heat earlier in atmospheric stability and all. So we were talking about that. This will be important when we'll be talking about cyclone formation, especially the tropical cyclone formation. So here is the factor that this latent heat provides more impetus, more energy to this wind which rises up furthermore, and then further it actually creates another zone of clouds which rains again. So there is torrential rainfall because of this factor. So what is important here is latent heat of condensation that is released at step number 4 that we see, right? And then 5, the warmed air continues to rise and moist, right? So what happens? It rains again and then finally it subsides down gradually. So this is important. So what happens here? These thunderstorms merge and create an intense low pressure system, very low pressure, acute low pressure system, and wind from all sides are rushing in, right, from high pressure. So this is a centripetal action, what you see. So wind moves in this particular low pressure from the outside, right? So this is what we say is this particular origin of tropical cyclone, right? Now let's understand about the conditions favorable for the formation of tropical cyclone. That is the second part of this session. So large sea surface with temperature higher than 27 degree. Now note this point, 27 degree is a threshold temperature. It means temperature higher than that will lead to creation of acute low pressure system on sea surface area. And sea surface is a place where you have heating and moisture creates more vapor, more gaseous state of vaporization happens, and more energy is actually getting up, right? So hot air rises up with moisture. So this is a first important condition. Then what we see is presence of Coriolis force enough to create a cyclonic vortex. Remember this whirling action, this vortex action. So this is what is created because of Coriolis force. So this is important. Then small variations in vertical wind speed. Now remember, vertical wind speed should not be having very much large variations. It should only have smaller variations. That is important. It means largely it should be uniform in character. Then a pre-existing weak low pressure area. So if it is a pre-existing weak low pressure area, remember this area can be a potential site for the creation of tropical cyclone if this area is intensified with more temperature. Right? So this is one potential area. Remember, so low level of cyclonic circulation in a particular area can actually lead to this intensification of this process, and in result it will lead to a huge tropical cyclone formation. Right? And then fifth one is upper divergence above the sea level system. So if suppose this is a sea level system and wind is rising up, right, and it is diverging in this particular way, right? Cool wind is going this way and it is diverging. So this system will trigger the convection cycle, right? And this is what we say as the cyclonic basic formation condition. So these are the 5 conditions that we need to remember regarding the formation of tropical cyclone. Now let's elaborate further more. So the first point what you see here is the good source of latent heat is the requirement, as we know. So this 27 degrees C as we talked. Why this is important? Because it pushes further air to rise up, right? So remember, that's why latent heat of condensation is the driving factor for this kind of storm. So depth of warm water, that is about 26 to 27 degrees C, should extend for 60 to 70 meter from surface of the ocean. Now this is also about the depth factor of the ocean. If this heat goes to 70 meters or 60 meters, then it means this entire zone is heated up. And if this large area is heated up, it means it will create intense vaporization. So this is the impetus. This is the first important factor that will give rise to enormous strength to the cyclone formation. Right? So that is important here as latent heat. Now, the next important point here is that above conditions that we say 27 degrees C and larger area up to 60 meters depth should be affected occurs where? In the western tropical oceans because of warm ocean currents. Now this is where an important factor is added here. In details we are going to learn in the oceanography, but for here remember the warm ocean currents also play a pivotal role in the western part, specifically where it is warm. So easterly trade winds pushes ocean waters towards the west, and that is important here. So what happens? The easterly trade winds, remember, they push the ocean water towards the west, right? So they are coming from east to west. So what happens? Western part has this warming happening, and remember this 27 degrees C, this supplies enough moisture to the storm, and then cold currents lower the surface temperature of the eastern parts of the tropical ocean. So this part, eastern part of tropical ocean have cold currents, right? So that's where this is unfit situation. Warming is a situation which is fit situation. So western part is warmed, eastern part is less warm. So cyclonic storms will occur more on this part of the ocean, right? Apart from certain anomalies that we see. So that is important to understand. Now the next question is what we need to answer is why cyclones occur mostly in late summers. Now here is the catch. Remember what happens to ITCZ? We have learned already the shifting of ITCZ. So what happens? Whirling motion, remember this kind of vortex motion, whirling motion is enhanced when the doldrums, that particular region within ITCZ, remember 0 to 5 degree or 10 degree north and south of equator over oceans, right? This happens at that particular zone, right? So at this time when then ITCZ is shifting up and down, right, during the late summers when we see, so what happens? The air is overloaded, overheated, because heat is accumulated from June to July, right? And in August, there is so much of heat accumulation that this tends to actually give that impetus for the rising cyclones. That is important. So continents attain maximum temperatures when? In June and July time, right? So what happens? The ocean has high surface, continents have low surface, so wind is pulled towards the land. And this is where what we see is this kind of whirling action created, convection cycles happening, and in the late summers, the rise of this kind of cyclones happening mostly. Now, if we talk about Coriolis force, which is another factor. So Coriolis force is zero at equator. So this is another interesting point. So at equator, it is zero. And as you go towards pole, the impact of Coriolis force, that is the motion of the earth, this force gains strength. So no cyclones at equator because of this zero Coriolis force, because these winds do not do this whirling action. That's why equator does not have cyclones, right? But increases with latitude. As you go up in the latitude from equator, you find more of cyclonic formation along these tropics and subtropics. So that is important to understand. So Coriolis force at 5-degree latitude, now this is part of the doldrum, remember, is significant enough to create a storm, that is cyclonic vortex. So that is important, but not exactly on the equator, but enough to just create the potential. That's enough. So about 65% of cyclonic activity occurs between when? Now look here. Occurs between 10 to 20 degree latitude. So this is that zone, right? Not exactly on 0 degree, but a little away from 0 degree, away from this doldrum belt. You have maximum potential of rise of these kind of tropical cyclone, as it is also facilitated by more of Coriolis force action. Now another factor that we need to discuss is the low level disturbances. So remember, low level disturbances, that is the thunderstorms, they are the seeds of the cyclone. So remember, these lower atmosphere disturbances of intermixture of warm front, cold front, and intermixing convectional cycle happening, these disturbances, this instability that we have talked already. So that is important here, and it keeps happening as there is heat accumulation and shifting of pressure belts. ITCZ shifts with the sun going northwards. So what happens? These local differences become the seed. And when the seed grows in a tree, it becomes this tree of cyclone. So that is important. So remember what happens if there is less difference in the temperatures, right, in the convectional cycle. What happens? It is a weak cyclone that develops around these areas. So because of rising warm humid air, a true cyclonic vortex may develop very rapidly. However, only a few of these disturbances develop into cyclone. So remember, normal thunderstorm and cyclonic vortex formation is common, but only few of them gain that potential of that, if a seed is there, seed goes like this. But to grow into a full-fledged tree, it needs more of energy, right? So not every seed, not every cyclonic disturbance or cyclonic vortex will become a tropical cyclone, right? It will all depend upon the amount of moisture, the amount of heat, the amount of Coriolis force that is put into latitudinally, if you see, right? And the latent heat that is released. So it will all depend upon these factors that we have already learned. Another important factor that we know is the temperature contrast between air masses. This also is the most important factor. So what happens? Trade winds from both hemispheres meet along intertropical front, that we know, intertropical convergence zone. So remember what happens? The temperature contrast between these air masses must exist when the ITCZ is farthest from equator. Remember, if this is equator and ITCZ is here, so then it is farthest from equator. It means now when the wind is coming from this side and the wind is coming from this side, they have this contrasting temperature. That's why more close to equatorial belt, you don't have much cyclones. But as you go in the subtropics, remember what happens in the tropics and subtropics? More of this intermixing happens and convergence happens, because equatorial zone, this area, when the air comes and the ITCZ is just here, what happens? The nature of the wind is same. But we need contrast. So contrast happens when ITCZ shifts north or south. So that is why in subtropics you have more instability because of this change of this air masses. So that is important point. The next important point is this upper air disturbance. So remember, the lower air disturbance is also important, but remember upper air tropospheric cyclone formation also happens, where especially in the westerly segment. So remember, where westerlies move deep into tropical latitude regions, there this kind of trough also develop. So divergence prevails on the eastern side of the trough. A rising motion occurs. This leads to what? The development of thunderstorms. So this is where the westerlies also play a role in certain areas of that upper air disturbance situation, right? So that is also important. Now another factor that we need to discuss here is the wind shear. What is the shear? It is the difference between the speeds of the at different heights of air, right? So tropical cyclones develop when wind is uniform. That is important to remember. So if there is not much of difference in the wind velocity, then tropical cyclone will occur. But if there is too much of intermixing of different kinds of wind strength, then there is more shear, and then more shear means less tropical cyclones. So because of weak vertical wind shear, cyclone formation processes are limited to latitude equatorward of the subtropical jet stream. So that is important, that it is limited to only subtropical jet stream layer and not further beyond. Why? Because this is the place till when it finds this kind of situation. But as we move ahead in the Ferrel cell, remember what happens? There is too much of disturbance and intermixing, which is not good for the cyclone formation. So in temperate regions, wind shear is high due to westerlies inhibits this particular zone, and convective cyclone formation is actually limited by the westerlies. So this is what is important to remember. So trade wind belt have more cyclones. Westerlies have very few little anomalies and cyclones of tropical nature. That is why it is also called tropical cyclone, because it does not happen in temperate belt, right? So that's important. The next important factor that we have already learned in the previous lecture is also about humidity factor. So remember, if humidity will not be there, latent heat will not be there. So that's why these moisture is the carrier of latent heat, and that's why humidity factor is important. And oceanic surfaces are having more moisture. So remember, ocean surface has this more potential of generation of these cyclones. That is important, right? Because it keeps providing the moisture supply and more latent heat is released as convection cycle goes on and on. So that is what is important here. That's important in terms of, if you see, trade wind belts have this entire area where you have more of this moisture supply because intense heating is there, more solar insolation is there. So humidity is also more with that temperature factor, as you know. So this is important to remember. So now let's look at the stages of the cyclone. So let's understand what happens in the early stage and what happens later in the mature stage. So in the early stage, the seeding stage, remember the first thunderstorm develops. So what happens then? In the thunderstorm stage, the air is lifted, right, as it is warm and light. That is a common phenomena, right? At certain height, what happens due to lapse rate and adiabatic lapse rate, remember instability factor, atmospheric instability, it goes under condensation and latent heat of condensation is released. So suppose this is the ground air, it goes up here at this particular height. What happens? Cloud formation happens, saturation happens, and latent heat is released, and further it intensifies in the upper air now above this particular zone, right? So this is where this latent heat of condensation is important. So continuous supply of moisture and latent heat of condensation. So here latent heat of vaporization that we say, where heat is absorbed, and this heat which is absorbed is released here. So this is a cycle where once at the ground level, that is basically at the ocean surface, if we say, not at the ground level. So what happens there? Heat is absorbed and it is transformed into vapor, and when this vapor condenses, the same heat is released. So this is interesting in the early stage that we say, and further this light air is lifted up and further it gains more and more strength. The space that is created is filled by fresh moisture laden air. Now remember, if this wind goes up, so this space is actually created here in such a way that it keeps receiving the moisture laden wind here continuously. This gap is being filled, this void is being filled continuously. So the cycle starts repeating. It means this convectional cycle of rising air starts repeating continuously. The moisture supply is continuous, right? And this area has intense heat, as we know. So there is a continuous supply. So due to this excess moisture over oceans, the thunderstorm starts intensifying and sucks in the air at much faster rate. So what happens? Remember, the hot air rises up, this area is vacuum, a void, and this wind rushes towards this, having the moisture, it continuously gains strength, and this is where the intensification starts happening. So in the later stage. So the air from surroundings rushes in and undergoes deflection due to Coriolis force, as we know, and a cyclonic vortex is formed. This spiral starts forming, right? You see this spiral here in your image, this starts forming, right? So this is important. And this starts like a tornado column, right? So this is important. So if you look here in this image also, what you see, how a cyclone forms. Step 1, step 2, step 3. So this is early stage, then you have a little maturity, and then you have full maturity, right? So what you see, due to centripetal acceleration, movement towards the center. If this is a center, which is also called eye of cyclone, what happens? The winds rush from all the sides, and then it starts whirling action, and because of the Coriolis effect, and it starts growing like this, right? So this is what we say is the development of full-fledged cyclone. So the inner surface of the vortex of this particular thing that you see here is called basically the eye wall. So this is the eye, right? And this is the eye wall. So eye of a cyclone, and the wall, this is part of this cylindrical shape that you see, right? So this is the most violent region. You have maximum wind speed here. That is the most important part, right? And along this, you see the coverage. This is entirely cumulonimbus cloud formation happening and rainfall happening at a great pace, right? So what you see here is that all the wind that is carried upward loses its moisture and becomes cold and dense, and it descends to the surface through cylindrical eye region and at the edges of the cyclone. Now look here, this is the eye, winds are going up, right? And what is happening here? Wind is going in the diverse direction, cloud is forming, and what is happening? Cold wind is here, which is now going down. So once the wind is getting cooler, it's going again down, right? So what is happening? Where is the hot zone and where is the heavy zone? Remember, hot air is this segment, right? And cool air is actually descending down here. So this is hot air, remember, and that's important to understand. Also in this image, if you look carefully, what you observe, where is the maximum intensity of the wind? It is here. That is about 120 km/h if you see it written here. But at the edges it is lesser, right? So these areas have lesser wind speed, while eye of cyclone has more wind speed, right? So this is an entire cycle, convectional cycle, that keeps on intensifying, and this is what we say, that moisture is the major driving force, continuous cloud formation. So as long as it is on the warm ocean, it is intensifying and more intensifying gradually. So if ocean can supply more moisture, the storm will reach a mature stage. That is how it gradually reaches the maturity. So now what we see in the mature stage, what happened? The spiraling winds create multiple convective cells, right? And it becomes more violent. That is important. And regions with cumulonimbus cloud, rising limbs of convective cell, remember, formations are called rain bands. So remember, this entire region like this has lots of cumulonimbus clouds formation. This is called rain band, and this ascending air will lose moisture at some point. So this air which is ascending will lose moisture at some point, right? That is important. So what will happen? It will start to descend down, because it will start to actually subside down. So cool air goes down. So cloud formation is the densest at the center. Now this is the center part where cloud formation is densest. Now let's look at the image and understand the same maturity process. So this is the final image that you see. What you see here is, this is the eye portion, and this is the cumulonimbus entire segment of rain band of cloud. What you see, maximum cloud formation is in this zone, cumulonimbus, and gradually as you go away from here, what you see, cirrostratus, other families of clouds which are lighter clouds, so they are formed. So this is the eye portion where it is maximum, and as you go from center to periphery, this is a center to periphery model if you see, so this is also important. So rain bands are formed mostly made up of cumulonimbus clouds. So here is important point to remember, and the ones at the periphery are made up of nimbostratus and cumulus clouds, right? So that is important. Then the dense overcast at the upper levels of troposphere is due to cirrus clouds, which are mostly made up of hexagonal ice crystals. So because upper layer is made up of these hexagonal ice crystals, remember, you don't have much of transparency, and that is the reason, because you have multiple layers of cloud formation, so transparency is less, so it is very dark and dense. The dry air starts to flow along the central dense overcast area and starts descending at the periphery. So remember, it rises in the center and starts descending in the periphery, and this cycle continues till it reaches the land. So that's why we say when it falls on the land, that is called landfall. This eye portion, when it reaches land, the moisture supply is cut from within. So when moisture supply is cut, it means now cyclone will not intensify further. It will gradually dissipate or disappear. So this is how the entire process operates. So that is important point to remember in tropical cyclone formation, its various factors and various other factors related to what we have studied in terms of thunderstorm, seed, convection, cloud formation, all these factors that you need to remember. So now I hope that you have understood the concept of tropical cyclone, its formation, its characteristic. In the sessions to come, we'll be talking more on temperate cyclone. So don't go anywhere, keep watching, stay tuned, stay safe.